Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. This is Mitzi. Let's think about it. And we are thinking about finding your dream job. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a topic that we are all thinking about some way or another. So I got Joseph here who is going to be helping us think about this in another way. So, Joseph, why do we need to think about this?
Sadly, 80 to 90% of people in North America hate their job, and turnover costs $1.4 trillion in North America. So it's an important issue.
Yeah, I mean, $1 trillion. I mean, once you pass the millions, I mean, those that's like big red flags, at that point.
We're
But
passing billions because we're talking three more zeros to get to trillion. So yeah.
for real. So I love that you said so many people hate their jobs because it's true. You see it all the time. I hear it all the time that so many people hate their jobs and they kind of like use their current job to find the potential of other jobs. What is your thoughts on that? Because I feel like that's a big thing that's going on now.
So I think there's kind of two things to understand. I admire and respect anybody that kind of goes, I have to take care of my family, so I'll do whatever it takes. My father, God rest his soul, was a civil engineer for 45 years. He loved the profession, but he stuck around in really bad jobs because he was providing for the family, and it was more important for him there. But I also, when I teach people how to find a job, say, look, if you have a passion, like, before I had two beautiful little kids, I used to go salsa dancing all the time. And to me, the salsa dancing was my yoga. So even if I got to the level where I could gig a performance or gig that, it make $50, makes $100 from it. That $100 mattered to me more than my entire salary, kind of thing. So I think there's a level where, unfortunately, I think there's a statistic that close to 70% of people that study something in college or university never actually work in it.
Yeah,
So first of all is kind of defining, are you passionate about it? Are you interested in in the career, right? Now, part of it is how then do I go from this to this? I've switched careers 9 times and jobs 18 times. So I've gone through this whole, I like this, but I hate this. So like I used to
yeah.
work in the banking system. You could not pay me $1 million to go work in a bank again unless I was hired as a senior VP, which was allowed to change the way that they treat people, for
Okay.
example, because in my opinion, working as a stock trader in the bank, I would get better treatment in prison. That's my experience and my opinion. Other people enjoy the banking. So it's a matter of going, okay, taking personal inventory. What are the things that you enjoy about your job? What are the
Mhm.
things that you don't? What are the things that from your interest or hobbies can be used in a work environment? And what are the things that you don't know how to use yet, but if somebody guided you, you could, for example.
That's interesting. I don't, I don't wouldn't, oh, to be honest, it's hard to say because I've been in jobs where I liked them, I just didn't like the people. You know what I mean?
And that's actually the number one reason why people hate their job is the environment. So the top three reasons out of the top, like salary is actually number seven. The top three reasons are lack of clear understanding what leadership wants, because it's
Hmm.
not clearly communicated. There's not a vision or strategy. Second, a very toxic work environment where there's a lot of gossip and there's a lot of nickel and diming, I'll call it. And thirdly, like new ideas or are not welcome. One of my favorite shows to watch is Undercover Boss. And I'm always amused at the end of the show where the guest goes, "Oh my God, I should speak to the people that work here. I might get some insights on how to make this company better." Right. And it's like, you think? And we become so dependent on technology that we are completely losing the human experience. And it's
Yeah,
getting worse before it'll get better because now with the explosion of AI, it's even more, you know,
that's
kind of
true.
formatted to welcome to the AI bot that's going to answer your questions rather than actually a human being.
Exactly. And they don't even get the words right. You know what I mean? They or misspell what I'm saying, or they don't understand accents very well. So it's very difficult for those people who have very strong accents or they're transitioning. So yeah, technology can only get you so far. Numbers can only tell you so much. It's like that movie Jurassic Park, um, one of the latest ones, where the owner of the property was in his helicopter asking the girl, "Oh, so how is everybody?" And she was giving the statistics of everything, and then they were like, "No, how is really everyone? How's everyone feeling, and then she's like, well, emotions are not told through these numbers, and it just shows like sometimes the companies that thrive and have a good work environment, those are the companies that really show that they care, and it's hard to find those companies. So do you have any tips or any ways to find those type of companies or what
So
really stands out?
I'm going to say that in a few different ways because there's always like we live in the digital age, so you can go on websites like Glassdoor and see what people that work for the company are saying. You can try to connect to people that work in the company through LinkedIn and have a conversation about their experience of working there. Um, but if you get to an interview, for example, you can ask somebody, "What do you love about working here?" And if the answer is the money's great, it's a horrible culture, for example,
Mhm.
because most people aren't going to talk about the money. Most people say, you know what, we do barbecues in the summer and we get massages like once a month. Those are the things that people remember. And so those will give you there. And even in an interview, you can ask somebody, what's your leadership stat? And what are your expectations, for example? Or, you know, what are some of the characteristics that you would like to see repeated uh, in somebody you hire? And how do you see me fitting in? If they're hesitating, if they need to think about the answer, you're not getting the job. You're not right for them, right? But this is where there's also a big shift right now that we've become North America is a hodgepodge of culture. And it's a beautiful thing, but a lot of times organizations don't know the differences between the cultures. And so they prejudge because it doesn't make sense to them. So if I
Yeah.
use a few different cultures, like for example, men that are usually from India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, are it's traditional that they wear multiple rings on their fingers, up to as many as 10 rings. Now, some of the rings are for health, some of the rings are status, some of the rings are religious in kind of prayer or whatever format that comes in. But when they come to an interview and a male's wearing 10 rings, it's like, why is this guy wearing 10 rings? If they don't know anything about the culture kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
it's about educating them. You know, people that are from the Middle East tend to be louder, tend to be in your face and more direct. Just because they're loud doesn't mean you're in trouble. It's just a different style of communication. And I think what's happening right now is that organizations, because of pandemic too, are creating work environments that are hybrids, remote, and so they have to redefine what is the organizational culture. The
Mm.
biggest problem there is that a lot of organizations give lip service on what culture is, but they don't actually practice it. So if I can share kind of a quick couple examples, I'm a very big kid at heart. One of my favorite holidays is Halloween. I love dressing up.
Okay.
Now, if a company says, let's have a Halloween party, and none of the executive dress up, it sends a message of, yeah, yeah, whatever, go dress up, but we don't care. Now,
Right.
even if the executive has meeting or executives have meeting all day that are very important, go to the dollar store, buy a cheap mask, wear it for 15 minutes, go shake hands and take pictures of people that have invested in dressing up, for example,
Mhm.
and then take off your mask and do you mean it. That 15 minutes is the difference between I trust you and I'm following you as a leader versus I'm going to do just enough not to get fired, but I don't care because clearly you don't either, for
Yeah.
example. Right. So a friend of mine just got, ironically enough, that because I started the conversation with the banking industry, she got hired in a high level at a bank. And when she interviewed her, they showed her that, this brand new state of the art yoga room, beautiful. And she's like, okay, they get it. Health and wellness, it's such a big, factor in the workforce right now. She got hired. There's no yoga instructor. There's no incentive for any employee to actually teach yoga internally. There isn't even you get an extra 10 minutes to go do yoga at lunch. It's just there. So you have this beautiful room that no one's using because there's no actual incentive to go. You get 10 minutes to go change and do your yoga or whatever. So it's lip service. And then unfortunately, we've become a society where, it's become commonplace for companies to ghost you after
Yeah.
3 interviews or 4 interviews. We've also become a society where I've had situations where, for example, I had somebody who was a security architect for a bank and my client was another bank and offered him, like, the guy was making 120 and they offered him $180,000 with a 25% bonus incentive, which never happens in a bank. But they asked him to come to work once a week to the office. And he looked at me and goes, yeah, I'm not sure if half my salary is worth coming into the office once a week. And I was like, you couldn't tell me this in the first, second, third interview. You had to wait till the fourth interview when they made you the offer.
Yeah.
Like, if this is such a thing for you, communicate that to me at the beginning so that I can address that beforehand. And it's like, but the office is headquarters downtown. So even if you take the subway, we're talking about once a week where you're going to commute for 40 minutes, let's say one direction. and then the rest of it you can be at home.
Yeah.
And we're not talking a $10,000. We're talking $60,000 raise.
Yeah.
Like it's a pretty big chunk of change. That pays for your Metro Pass. That pays for your, so it's like, I had people that rejected doubling their salary because they didn't like the title that they got. And I'm like, you
Mm,
know what? If you're gonna double my salary, you can call me Bob for all I care. I don't, like the job title doesn't matter to me because I'm earning money, right?
yeah.
And if I've already proven how good I am, the job title is going to change 6 months to a year anyhow because they're going to want to promote me because of how my career has progressed, kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, job title is most important. And I was like, okay, that is the
It's
silliest thing I've heard.
it is very silly. I've encountered people who won't. It's so funny. I won't say names just in case they decide to listen to this. But I know someone. I'll just tell the story. So I know someone who applied as for a company that'll cut down trees, right? You have to
Yeah,
climb trees and then cut them down slowly, right?
yeah.
And he expected to only have to drive the truck or the machinery, and that was it. That he was told that he thought that he would never actually have to climb up because he has a this fear of heights. So the day that they actually requested him to climb up a tree, he looked at them all crazy and was like, "No, I'm not gonna climb up no tree. This is a tree cutting business. You're going to eventually, if you're part of a team." And you're assigned to that team to go in this specific area, you're going to need I don't know. It really irked me
Look, but this
that
is
that was
where you have like millennials that are coming out of high school that don't know anything and they're like, I should be the CEO because I graduated high school. And I'm like, no, like unless you've opened a business and you've had certain track record, and even if you're doing co-op, you can't just be like, I want to be the CEO kind of thing, right?
exactly.
And there's a level where you have to understand, um, again, if you've graduated from, the Ivy League schools, by default, you're getting a job no matter what, right? If you worked for Google, Meta, Amazon, let's say in software development, you're guaranteed a job anywhere you want in the world, kind of thing, right? And they'll pay you whatever you want because they also understand the standards of it. But for most people, that's not the story. And so you need to prove that you're better, different or other, and that what you bring to the table is worth whatever you're asking for because
Yeah.
you're gonna using Grant Cardone's 10x at a minimum what they pay you as results kind of thing, right?
So I'm curious because you seem very man of rationality, very logical. I like that. I could dig it because I'm very logical, rational. And when I'm finally not overthinking, You know what I mean? So once I pass that overthinking, I get in my rational, logical mindset. I have to ask you. I forgot the question. See, I got so
That's
stuck. Hold
it's all
on.
good. Logical, rational.
Logical, rational. What were you saying before? Oh my goodness, I swear it was a
That
good
we have
question. Oh,
expectations.
got it. I
Got
got
it.
it. What is your opinions on people and when they say manifesting their jobs, their dream job? What do you think on about that? Is that considered real to you, or is there a little real work that you have to put into it along with the manifesting?
So the short answer is yes, you manifest what you want. However, this is where when the movie The Secret came out, the US economy nearly bankrupted because it's not that you go and go, I need $1 million. God, it didn't arrive yet. Go. God, I asked 1 million. Where is it? It doesn't work like that. There is
Yeah.
like you have to have certainty that it will happen, and you also have to trust the process that
Mm,
if you're getting rejected or you're getting kind of certain feedback that maybe it's not the right time for you or it's not there because you might go, I'm really perfect for this job. Um, but the company will go, no, you're not. And it could be, for example, currently the leadership has a personality type that you might not fit in their little square. You might be able to do the job first, but unless you're a surgeon and you're brilliant as a surgeon, most of the time the hiring is not done on how technical you are. It's done on your personality. And
mm.
if I may kind of make this connection because people will get this. Mitzi, if I approach you like this, I'm high, I'm high, can I get your number? What are my chances?
I know I would have been walked away like, me.
Right. So here's the thing. Psychologically speaking, most women look for confidence and sense of humor in a guy, sense of humor in a guy. Right. Now, if you go to a job and say, please, please, please give me a job, I'm really hardworking, one of two things will happen. One, they're not hiring you because you don't have confidence in yourself. And two, they'll hire you, but they'll not pay you anything because they know you're desperate. Right. So
Mhm.
understand that. And I made that connection to dating because if a guy is very physically attractive, your type, whatever it is, you might give them a chance to try and carry the conversation a little bit more, right? Now, it's no different in that there is a model of in an interview in presenting that I teach people come in with confidence that you already have the job, right? Because if you've ever had a job, even if it's retail, where you got promoted or you got more responsibility, they don't come to you and say, Mitzi, tell me about yourself. They say, Mitzi, you're doing a pretty good job. We'd like to give you a little bit more responsibility, maybe a little bit more money. Are you interested?
Mhm.
Right. And so if you have the mindset that you've already been working there for a few years, you know what you're doing, you know the routine, they listen to you differently than I think I'm good and I can do this and there. Now, this is a very big problem, which I talk a lot about. And I'm going to give two examples because the first one makes everybody laugh and the second one people get, if you don't mind. So if you're applying to be a receptionist somewhere and you tell me that you know how to answer the phone, I hope the employer looks at you in shock and goes, really? A receptionist that knows how to answer the phone? We did not know that. Because unless you live in an igloo, a cave, or practice the faith of Mennonite where you don't believe in technology at all, my almost 2-year-old son can press the green button and go, hello, right? But if you've worked as a receptionist or you studied to be a receptionist and you come in and say, I know how to answer 60 calls a day with 12 different lines, I can measure 60 calls a day with 12 different lines. I cannot measure, I know how to answer the phone, right? Now, if I give you an example from my own career, I can say to you, I'm an excellent salesperson. I know how to do B2B, B2C, account management, relationship building, lead generation. I've worked in retail. I've done door-to-door sales. I've done car sales. I've worked in private education. I've worked in recruitment. I know how to do sales. Okay. Or I say to you, I worked for a private college that before I came in generated $530,000 in sales for the entire year. In 1 month, I was able to generate $860,000 in sales for them. Which one would convince you that I'm a phenomenal salesperson? All of the words or the numbers? Now, here's the thing. You need all the words for the algorithm of Indeed, LinkedIn, and all the other digital resources.
Mhm.
But in the interview, you need the wow factor. You need the example. If you don't
Yeah.
have any examples, like, have you ever met an accountant that doesn't know how to do financial statements? Have you ever met a
Mhm.
teacher that doesn't know how to do lesson planning? Right? Have you ever met an engineer that doesn't know engineering stuff? All of
Mhm.
them know it because we trust that there's an education, a certification, whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
telling me that you know something doesn't mean anything, right? And again, taking it a step further, stop filling your resumes with fluffy information like I'm hardworking, dedicated, committed team player with excellent communication skills. Because in 20 years of recruiting, I've met very few people that say, listen, I'm lazy, I'll show up late, none of my work will be any good, and I really hate people, please hire me. Not unless you're related to them or having an affair with them that you can kind of get away with that.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I agree. It has to be some heart to it. Why am I like, okay. Yes. So I agree. I really enjoyed everything that you said because it's the reality of life that people don't think about. Yeah, you could put all of that fluff mumbo jumbo, but let's get to the core. What can you really do? What can you bring to the table? How can you really benefit this company or vice versa? You know what I mean? And people don't realize that.
Look, but it's also, and this is where I speak a lot about culture because to me, I've had the opportunity to live in 5 different countries. I speak 4 different languages. And so I love learning about different cultures. But again, if I tie this to dating, because I'm actually writing a book why dating and job finding are exactly the same, um, right? And again, I'm going to purposely do it like this. If I try to do a pickup line like, hey, Mitzi, your daddy must be a thief because somebody stole the stars and put them in your eyes, is a white guy, that's not going to work.
No.
Culturally speaking, it also for you, it's not the right demographic. And there's a certain nuance in that pickup line that needs to be addressed as part of the culture, as part of that, because there is like, you know, In the Jewish community, definitely not going to work. In Chinese community, not going to work, kind of thing, because they're very driven, they're very kind of results focused and so forth. So, you know, it's kind of take it with a grain of salt that by all means learn from people that are experts and can maybe help you in whatever capacity it is. Same with me as a resume whisperer and corporate culturist, right? I've earned the right to say, here's how good I am at what I do. Now, you don't need to listen to everything I say. You might not like some of the strategies I'm going to tell you, but I want to open your eyes that there's more than one way to get the job, and there's more than one way to approach the resume. There's more than one way to approach the interview. And there's certain things that, again, I've had, and I go back to this very strategically and on purpose, is that, you know, I've had the opportunity to travel around the world. It's very different to say I went to Vatican City and I stood in the Sistine Chapel and watched and observed everything there versus watching a YouTube video about it, right? And so, yes, I can watch a YouTube say, "Go, cool! I'd like to experience that." I'm fascinated. This sounds like an experience, but it's very different to actually have the experience. And this is where a lot of people today are faking experiences to kind of say, yeah, whether it's work experiences, whether it's travel experiences, whether it's dating experiences. And so you have the same kind of generic conversation. You have this same generic there, like, for example, most interviewers say, tell me about this job. And people ramble about the fact that they have this skill and that they're hardworking, dedicated, committed team player and other useless information because it's autoresponder. So I change the question slightly. I say, what are your three biggest achievements in this job? You cannot give me an autoresponder question answer for what are your three biggest achievements. Because if you say to me, I'm really hardworking and I love my team, you clearly suck at your job. Because
Yeah,
I asked you about
you're
your
not
accomplishments
listening.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I will modify the question to force you to think about who you are. And I can catch very quickly people that have memorized the answer that they think employers want to hear.
Mm.
Right? Because if I say, what are you most proud of? And you were like, I love my job, that's pretty sad and scary.
Yeah. Yeah, go live a little, go do something with yourself. Give moments, give experiences. I remember speaking to somebody and they hired somebody just because they explained how they were able to survive a hiking trip. You know what I mean? Just because they had those survival skills. They didn't need it for the job, but the fact that they had it, they felt like it was because they could use those and transfer that dedication, that passion into what they're doing in the job. And I think that's interesting because people don't think about the emotional intelligence that employers are actually looking for.
Look, it's a combination where there's two parts. Like, there's a lot of employers that are now starting to realize people that, are 55 years old, more mature, you cannot, like, yes, you can hire a new graduate for maybe half the price, but education will never replace experience, right? And so
Yeah.
somebody young might have ideas, but you know, just because you learn the foundation of something doesn't mean you can do it. I had an ex-girlfriend that was working part-time at Walmart and was terrified to ask for full-time because they really needed her to stock the shelves in whatever department she was in. And after we broke up, dated somebody that had a little bit of money, and she decided she's going to be a resume writer. I'm like, you've never had a real job in your life, right? With no disrespect to anybody that works in retail, but I'm talking like a white collar professional job. How are you writing resumes? She's like, oh, it's easy. You just go on Google, you find a few words. I'm like, no. And this is what's happening exactly right now with ChatGPT. People are copying and pasting the job posting right into ChatGPT. And again, I'm not dismissing the value of ChatGPT, but ChatGPT will give you the most cookie cutter standard resume that every single person on earth has. And it doesn't
Yeah.
tell your story. And you get lost in the shuffle because you've copied the wrong things or you've focused on the wrong things, right? And so, again, part of it is understanding that I've invested 30,000 hours to master everything there is to know about job finding. So, with the exception of a few very unusual Google interview questions, like Google used to ask people, how do you weigh your brain? Right. And just to see your thought process to answer that question. Right. If you saw
Interesting.
the movie, The Internship, I think it was called, with uh, Owen Wilson and no, I forget him. Anyway, so like they asked him like if you were shrunk to the size of a dime and you were in a blender and the blender was turned down, how would you survive? And again, it's more of what's your logic to to survive kind of thing. But there are certain
Yeah.
things that if you understand you're the size of a dime, you're very small. So if you're in a blender, if you stick to the center of the blade cannot cut you, for example, for it. But I digress, and I'm saying is like, look, at the end of the day, if I give you a situation and you come up with an idea, great. If you give me examples of things that you've actually done, great. If you've proven to me results, even better, kind of thing. But the majority of population, like right now, and again, very, very scary statistic. In North America, there's over 60 million people that are unemployed. There's approximately 50 million people that are severely underemployed, meaning have a university degree but work at McDonald's. And then there's
Mhm.
another close to 40 million people going through some sort of education or retraining.
Hmm.
And so there's a level where there's 150 million people that need help to find a job. And
Yeah.
they go, oh yeah, I'll just go to ChatGPT. But if they don't take the time to teach ChatGPT who they are, what's their background, what are their values, what are the things, ChatGPT is going to give them an answer that is, here's the answer that every single person on earth gives. If you remember or saw the movie Legally Blonde, when Elle Woods or Reese Witherspoon applies to Harvard, as well as to the internship, she gives them a pink scented resume. And everyone looks and goes, it's
Yeah.
pink and it's scented,
Yeah, and
but
they
they
smell it.
remember
Hmm.
it. But they remember it. And I'm not saying you need a pink
Hmm.
scented resume, but there's a lot of little things that you can do to make your resume stand out because employers today spend between 6 seconds and 30 seconds to read your resume, which means they look at the top third to the top half of your resume. If something jumps out at them, they put you in the yes pile, right? And so you can add a little bit of color to your headings. You can change the font. You can use any other bullet than that black circle that is so overused and saturated and so forth. You can give me results. You can go to Microsoft Word, say insert text box and have slightly different, even for just your name and your phone number to have it in a box to just catch the attention. Because again, I don't care if you're in the yes file because you had a little bit of color. You got in the yes file. You got a phone interview. You got an interview as a result because you caught attention. Because again, if I have a stack this big of resumes and I'm going like this, like a deck of cards, a little bit of color, a little bit of formatting, a little bit of this might be just the thing that gets your
Do you
attention.
some
Gets
justice?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting. That's really interesting, and that people really need to think about what are they putting? Well, how does it look? What do you bring to the table? How is your experience? And that's something to think about when you're trying to apply for your dream job because does it align? And if you don't have everything, the experience that you want for your dream job, getting that experience, oh my goodness, that's amazing because you can volunteer, you can do community service, you can turn tip. There's so many ways to
but
network,
here's the thing, you don't need
and I
all the
think.
experience. You don't need the experience, but you said something that I want to touch on because it's very important, right? It's again presenting the right information. And you said network. Sadly, most people that go into network go in with the mindset of I'm going to collect as many business cards as possible and don't know anything about actually having a conversation. And so I've been to networking events where people have walked by while I was talking to someone and go, you sound important, give me your card. Not even a hello, not even hi, my name is. Just give me your card. And the next day I get a email. Here's my resume. I need a job. Who are you? What are you?
Yeah, you're too
So
forceful. I don't like you.
no, but it's not necessarily forceful, but you have to understand there's networking and there's networking. I was in a networking event where there was 40,000 people there. So what have you done to stand out? So not today, but generally speaking, my favorite color is purple. If you look me up on any social media, everything I do has purple in it, right? So when I go to a networking event, I wear a purple shirt, I have a purple bag, I have purple pens, I have purple business cards, so that even if we're having a conversation and you had 50 conversations that evening, when I follow up with you and say, hi, Mitzi, I'm the guy in purple. You're going to remember the purple. You're not going to remember my name necessarily, but you're going to remember the purple. So again, purple is my thing, but you can wear a particular hat, you can wear a particular necklace, you can have particular earrings, a scarf, a pin, or a brooch, particular shoes, a particular outfit. But again, if your outfit is blue or black, which is kind of standard, professional, I'm not
Yeah,
necessarily going to remember it. Now, this is where,
yeah,
again, culturally, if I came into an event in a neon colored suit, given my skin tone, not the most impressive, but I will wear a funny tie, for example, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, like Steve Harvey, sometimes I look at some of his suits and I'm like, yeah, I'll never be able to pull that suit off. Also, you're taller than me, different body structure, your skin tone allows for that color to come through nicely. Mine doesn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep in mind that you need to pick something that it's a conversation. It could be a watch. Like, I wear a watch that always gets people attention because it's so unusual, right? It's not the most like, I mean, it's a nice watch, but it's a $500 watch that I purposely chose because it's a conversation starter, and people remember it.
Yeah.
It's just something different, and again, it's the same mentality. It translates to multiple parts of life, conversations day to day. Are you monotone? Are you talking about the exact same thing every single time, or is there a little bit more depth to you? There's only
Right.
so much I can talk about the weather, sports. Let's say,
Yeah.
as a guy, typically speaking, working out, whatever, and even other surface conversations like movies, television, music. Like, yes, I can have an engaged conversation. Like, I've been to this many concerts. This was my favorite, etc. But there's a little bit of depth to that the moment I start describing specific concerts, for example.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's not that works out because it makes people bring out their originality, their personality, like you said in the beginning of the conversation. People want to know their personality, and I think that's great because it ties everything back in. But man, it's so sad that the time is running up, and it's sad because I feel like we could talk about this topic and so many others in such broadness and just the you bring so much to think about, honestly. So much to think about, so much perspective and knowledge from your experience. And I appreciate that because this truly gives us something to really, at the end of the day, think about. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to know more about Joseph and all that he has to offer, because he has a lot to offer to the world, I mean, especially if you're looking for that dream job and or you're trying to fix up your resume or you're trying to just do that transition. Look up Joseph, I have his picture on my website, access to everything that he has to offer. Don't miss this opportunity, especially if you're listening and it relates to you and it clicks to you and you just want to know that go that extra mile, reach out to him.